Hey everyone, it's Ayana here, and welcome back for another episode of Ayana Explains It All, the podcast bridging the gap between current events and human behavior. I am your podcast host, Ayana Fakir, the Black Muslim lady lawyer who has an opinion on everything, not just lawyering and the law. In fact, I do talk about law. I am in Northeast Ohio. I talk about Ohio stuff. I talk about my kids. I talk about politics and race. And I talk about mental health and physical health. And I talk about technology. And I talk about all the things. I call myself the explainer in chief because I can explain everything to just about anyone. But while I am the explainer in chief, I am not the know-it-all in chief. I feel like sometimes people treat me like I know everything. No, if you ask me about something and I don't know it, I'm going to go research it. I'm going to get my brain saturated with it, and then I'm going to explain it to you if that is what you want. That is what that's part of what this show is. It's sometimes people will ask me to talk about things, but mostly it's what I see going on in the world around me, maybe in the news, current events in my life, current events in other people's lives, current events in the world. And so I just get on here and I talk about it. I would love it if you all would share my podcast with your friends and family if you are a listener. If you are a regular listener to this show, then you know that Ayana Explains It All is available on every podcast and other streaming platform. You can even put your YouTube on your TV and you can listen to Ayana Explains It All. I haven't quite figured out how to do video podcasts. I know that's where everything is moving to. I haven't figured it out yet. I'm just now mastering the audio podcast platform. This was a hobby for me, and now it is a regular thing. It's something that I use to make a bit, and I do mean a very bit of small money for myself. But I'm good at using my voice, and so I love doing this podcast because it allows me to use my voice to bring attention and awareness, but also just to talk about things that are going on inside of my head, that are going on in my life, that are going on in the world around me, that I see sometimes that bother me or make me feel really good. And I want to tell the people about it. If you want to collaborate with me, if you want to be on my show, go to the show's website. It's www.ayanaexplainsitall.com. And my name is spelled Ayana. That is Ayana, explains with an S, itall.com. And you can find out how to collaborate with me. When you go to the show's website and you hit the email me, or you can leave me a voicemail message, you will actually be talking to me. I am the host, the producer, the writer, the audio person. I am the patron. I am all the things for this podcast. So when you leave a message or a voicemail or an email, you will be speaking directly to me. I am, as I said, I'm in Northeast Ohio, and Ohio apparently is a battleground state. Ohio has always been the state that candidates for political office want to win, because that means something about their chances throughout the rest of the country. Obama won Ohio. It's usually a red state. Sometimes it's a purple state. Sometimes it's a blue state. But now we have all of these other battleground states, right? Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona. And a lot of these other states get overlooked. And suddenly they become battleground states. Like North Carolina is now up for grabs. Maybe even Florida. It's crazy. So I'm waiting for this election season to be over because I have had enough. I've had enough of... While I appreciate people knocking on my door to make sure I voted and to ask me who I'm voting for and to leave those door hangers and other paraphernalia, I am tired of the constant barrage of idiocy and willful ignorance displayed by some Americans when it comes to discussing politics, when it comes to discussing political candidates, when it comes to discussing government and governmental policy, when it comes to discussing voting. All of these discussions require some thought, and many people are putting little thought into their decision making. They're putting little thought into what they say in response to questions and in interviews and things of that nature. And it prompted me to think of what is going on with people mentally, what is happening psychologically with people that they are making the decisions they're making when it comes to voting and choosing a political stance or a politician to support. Don Lemon on his social media is doing a tour of the United States asking voters or people who are likely to vote if they voted and who they voted for and what issues mattered the most to them. And the responses that he gets from people who are voting Republican or for Trump are some of the most ignorant, incorrect, asinine statements I have heard throughout this entire election season. And it's not even funny. It's not funny at all. And it makes me wonder what are people experiencing in their head. It can't be that all of these people, one after the other, are just willfully ignorant. And even when presented with new information, they still refuse to accept the truth. Is this what half of the United States is comprised of? People who refuse to accept the truth, people who are willfully ignorant, people who will say whatever the hell because somebody told them to say that, people who will vote against their own interests because that's the way their family has always voted. That's the way their community votes. That's the way they were told to vote in their church. They can't think for themselves. And thinking for yourself means that you investigate information that you've been told, and you investigate whether it's facts or an opinion. Opinions are opinions, and they change and they're fluid. Facts are not fluid. Facts stay the same. Facts don't change. There are people who are actually disputing factual information in real time. When they are presented with an answer, they are disputing it, like 2 + 2 = 4. They will dispute it. And I'm watching this and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm one of the elite. I'm one of the smartest people on earth. Feeling completely smart because I read books and I know things, but I am able to change my mind. I am able to form a different opinion. I'm able to accept the facts when I'm presented with them. I'm able to analyze and use discernment. And how are people not able to do this? How are people who are, they're employed, they have children, they're making families, and they're homeowners, and they're paying taxes, but they are some of the, I don't want to say stupid now. I was about to say stupid, but willfully ignorant people. And these are wealthy people. These are poor people. These are middle-class people, old people, young people, white, black, Latino, Asian, people from all walks of life. And I wonder what is going on with people psychologically. Is this how you were raised? Is this, are you a product of your environment? Are you a product of, did you hang out with a group of idiots when you were a kid? Are you being indoctrinated at your places of worship? Are you spending time on a boat, and all the people who were on the boat, the other fishermen on the boat, are they all indoctrinating you? Are you in a cult? Some people will say, yes, it's a cult. The MAGA is a cult. That the GOP is a cult. And I'm hard pressed to not believe it. Number one, they worship Donald Trump. They worship him. They don't just support him. They actually worship him. He has produced a Bible. It's called I believe it's called the God Bless America Bible. And it contains the U.S. Constitution and the U.S., the Declaration of Independence and the Pledge of Allegiance, and it's signed by him, made in China, of course, because why would you want to make a Bible about America in the United States? It doesn't make sense. But this man has produced his own Bible. That's heretical. That's heretical. Why aren't the religious fanatics, the evangelicals, up in arms about the crime against God that he has committed? He's created his own religious text. He's added to the religious text that you hold dear. He's signed a book that you say was written by God, and you have no problem with it. None whatsoever. And it's because he's singing the song you want to hear. Get rid of immigrants, get rid of abortion. I'm going to put more money in your bank accounts. We're going to make America great, make America great, You know what would make America great again? Is if the United States government would collect all of the taxes that it is owed by corporations and businesses so that it could eliminate poverty. But then the IRS would have to be properly and fully funded by the Congress, by the budget formulated by the Congress in order to do that. You know who recently was able to get through a bill that adds funding to the IRS because Republicans didn't want them to have it? Joseph Biden, President Biden. They were able to get new computers and upgrade their technology and go after tax cheats. You know that the United States is owed so much money in taxes that are supposed to be paid, but that are not being paid. We are owed so much money that money that we are owed could essentially eliminate poverty in the United States. Taxes are not levied properly. Taxes are not collected properly. But if me, were to fail to pay my taxes for 2 years, 3 years, I would get sent to prison. I would get sued. I would get sent to prison. They would take the shoelaces out of my shoe. They take my shoes. They take the shoelaces. They take the spices in my pantry and sell them off to get their money. They don't do the same with corporations. They will squeeze the fuck out of the middle class and give tax breaks to wealthy people and give, tax credits to the poor. But the middle class, they will squeeze us. And we know why. We know why. We know why the people who are at the top don't want to have to pay their fair share, because that takes money out of their shareholders' hands. They are beholden to their shareholders. And the people, the poorest people, we know they can't pay. We know they can't. And they need tax exemptions and breaks and all of that. We know that. So why is the burden on the people in the middle? Why is the burden on the people in the middle? And then the people in the middle, that group keeps getting bigger. It seems like the middle class is really 30,000 people making $30,000 to up to, I don't know, $250,000, $300,000, $400,000. That's a huge group of people. But then the people who are at the top, the people making the most money, who have the most money, even combined, those people still make more money and hold more money than all of the people in the middle and at the bottom. They still have more money than all of us. And it's so funny because I saw a story the other day about the Haslams. The Haslams, who own the Cleveland Browns. They also own my favorite sports team, the Columbus Crew, the MLS team. They own those two teams. These people are they have money coming out of their eyeballs. They are so wealthy. And you know what they want to do on issue 1 in the state of Ohio? They are pouring money into the anti-issue 1 movement. Yes, they are against gerrymandering. And you know why? Because if the districts are drawn fairly, that means that possibly someday there will be more Democrats than Republicans. They also don't stand for losing. They only win. They only are in power. They don't see themselves as being equal to anyone, but they also don't see themselves losing. And issue one would make things fair. Issue one could make things equal. Issue one could mean that, there's one group that has a little bit more than the others. No, these people want complete and total power. They want it all. They want it all. And so they are against issue one because issue one takes from the party that is currently in power, the GOP. It takes the power from them to be able to draw fair congressional districts in the state of Ohio. The Supreme Court of Ohio has said to the GOP several times that the map that you have drawn for these congressional districts is undraw it. And you know what they do? They say, F you, we don't care. And they get away with it. And it had gotten so bad, so many times that they had done this, gotten so bad that a group of people came together and said, hey, we're going to get enough signatures to take to the state house so that we can get this issue on the ballot, so we can finally get a group of people who are independent of government to draw districts, to draw congressional districts. This isn't the first time this has been done in the U.S., but it will be the first time this has ever happened in Ohio. When you have one party that's flat out ignoring state Supreme Court rulings, that's a problem. But you don't hear the Haslams talking about that. You don't hear the Haslams going to their state representatives and going, okay, just draw the districts fairly. Just do it the way you're supposed to do it. No, you don't hear that. You don't see that. But they will try to take the power from the people. They will try to depower us. What's the word for depowering? I don't know. But they will try to take our power from us. They will try to remove the will of the people from the conversation because it doesn't benefit them. They want the most money in their pockets as possible. They want people in government, controlling policy decisions who favor corporations and who favor the wealthy. And so far, that has been the Republicans. And this is what these people want. The rich just want to get richer. But what people don't understand is that we are all wealthy in terms of what our country can do for us. Our country can do a lot for us if it were able to collect the amount of tax money that it was owed. If systems were dismantled and replaced with equitable systems that equalize wealth, that equalize housing, that equalize employment. But as many people have told me, oh, girl, you're dreaming. I know I'm dreaming. I'm a dreamer. I'm optimistic. I'm a dreamer. I hate that we have been listening to the same crap over and over again, that it makes us feel like we have no power, that it makes us feel like if we're at the bottom, that we're going to stay at the bottom. We deserve to be at the bottom. We don't deserve to be at the top. We don't deserve to be equalized. Things don't deserve to be fair. We've been hearing this for so long that we believe it. So we don't fight for anything. But also another line that the government is pushing, another line that corporations and the wealthy are pushing is that resources are scarce. Resources are scarce. And so when there's a group of people who come into the United States, you must fight them. Fight to get rid of them because they're taking your resources. We know that's a bunch of crap. Because during the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, there were resources. And those weren't just invented. Some of them were, like those stimulus checks, they were just invented. But it's not the first time that the government has given out stimulus checks to stimulate the economy, to put money in people's pockets because times are hard. No, it's been done many times. But the idea that there are limited resources, no, there isn't. No, there isn't. The United States is actually a very wealthy, resourceful country. Any country that can see back-to-back hurricanes and then swoop in with billions of dollars to help clean up these areas, to get them back to life, is not hurting for resources, okay? So put that out of your mind. Put it out of your mind that there are people who are coming in to take your welfare and take your water and take your food and take your air, land, and sea. Put it out of your head. We have the resources. We have the money. They don't want to give it to us. They don't want us to have it. They don't want us to have it because what does it benefit the wealthy and the corporations and the government to see everyone happy and fulfilled and having enough money? What does it benefit the government and the wealthy to see no more poverty? How does that help them? If you're not poor anymore, you're not going to work. Somebody wins $5 million or $50 million in the lottery, they're quitting their job. They're not going back to work. Somebody gets a huge settlement or they inherit a bunch of money, right? You're not going to work. They need people to be hungry and poor and believing that resources are scarce. They need people to believe that they belong at the bottom so they will not have the bandwidth, and this is what I'm going to talk about in a few seconds. They will not have the bandwidth to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. We tell people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, but when you are low, you don't have the bandwidth, and that is called the bandwidth tax. And I heard this in a book that I listened to. It's called Poverty by America. By the way, y'all, download this app called Libby. If you like audiobooks like I do, this is not an ad, by the way. The app is free anyway. It doesn't matter. But it's called Libby, and they have hundreds, thousands, probably millions of audiobooks here. All you need is a library card. All you need is a library card attached to whatever local library, county, city library, and you can get a loan of a book, an audiobook, and listen to it right from the app. Now, because it is free, they have a limited number of books available for people to listen to at one time. So you might have to wait a couple weeks. And there's one book I've been waiting for months. And if the wait is too long, I will just try to find the book at the half-price bookstore, or I'll get it at the library myself. But I prefer audiobooks because I'm busy. I'm a very busy person. So finding the time to sit down and actually read, because the way that I read, I have to read and reread, and I have to highlight things, underline things, and it takes me forever to get through a book. I do it, but it takes me a lot longer. But listening to a book helps me, and I take notes in my notes app, and I'll record snippets of things that I'm like, yes, that makes so much sense. You can get a loan of the book and read it on your tablet or phone or computer or whatever, so you don't have to listen. If you don't want to go and buy the book, if I listen to a book and it sounds really interesting and I love the subject matter and it really resonates with me, I will buy the book. Like Cast by Isabel Wilkerson. I listened to that one. So good. Oh my gosh, that book is so good. I bought that book. A Different Mirror by Ronald Takaki. I love that book too. Bought that. But the Libby app lets you read books. It's not just audiobooks. You can read them too. Let me find out the name of this author. This book is by Matthew Desmond, and it's called Poverty by America. And it's a quick listen. It's like 6 hours, which means it's probably a very quick read too. But one of the things he talks about in this book that I had never heard about before is the bandwidth tax. And what is the bandwidth tax? The bandwidth tax is a concept in behavioral economics that describes how the constant mental load of financial, social, or personal stress. So, this means that anybody, poor people and rich people and people in the middle, can experience this. But the mental load of financial, social, or personal stress can reduce cognitive capacity, making it more difficult for people to focus, plan, and make effective decisions. When people are overwhelmed by immediate needs, it's like having mental bandwidth taken up, leaving less space for long-term planning and productivity. And I can give you some examples. For instance, housing is a really big hot button topic now, the affordability of housing. And in fact, Poverty by America talks about housing affordability and how creating, mixed income neighborhoods and making housing affordable would help to reduce poverty in the United States. And that's a lot of things. One of the things people are talking about lately is the cost of rent and the cost of homes. If you want to refinance, it's not even worth it to refinance. If you want to buy a home, you're probably going to pay triple what the home is really worth or what it sold for 15, 20 years ago. Your rent is doubling but your income is not going up. And so you're forced to either find new housing or to get another job to subsidize your rent. Or some people take in roommates. It's gotten ridiculous. People are really being squeezed. And so in areas facing severe housing crises like California, the high cost of living consumes people's mental energy as they struggle to afford basic needs. This financial stress forces them to focus on immediate solutions like finding enough money for rent rather than on planning for the future, securing stable employment, or even participating in job training programs. And when you look at when we sometimes, people who are working, we look at people who don't have jobs and we go, well, why don't you just get a job? Because oftentimes what they're dealing with is not just a lack of employment. They're also dealing with the psychological effects of having no job, no housing, little food, wondering where they're going to get their next meal from, wondering if they're going to have heat or someplace with heat because it's getting cold in the United States this time of year. They're wondering where they're going to take a shower, where they're going to wash their clothes. And so we're saying to them, just get a job, just go and get retrained in something new. And it's like, you don't even have the effing energy to do that. You don't have the energy to do that. And it's not the same if you see your industry dying and you think, okay, before my job dries up, I'm going to get some new skills training. It's like some of these are happening like immediately. Like people are losing jobs and they don't know, and they don't have enough money saved to make it through the next weeks, certainly not a year. And so they're not able to make good financial decisions. Like they don't have the bandwidth to make good financial decisions. They don't have the bandwidth to make good social decisions. Sometimes people will end up going to live with someone that perhaps it's not a great environment. It's an abusive environment. People will go back to an abusive ex. People will move back in with their toxic parents, and that will further erode their good mental health. Or people will just not know how to look for a job, right? And so the idea that you're going to somehow get enough energy to find housing, it's impossible. It's impossible. And telling people to do this, it's not enough. It's not enough. When people get to this point where their bandwidth is low, their psychological bandwidth is low due to the stress, the impact of poverty, they need more than just someone talking to them. They need more than just somebody giving them a speech. They need more than just someone telling them, hey, this is what I'm going to do for you. They need much more than that. And a lot of politicians, this is what they get into. They talk a really good game. And then their game is flat. Their game is flat. They get into government and they find out, well, the government is actually pro-poverty. The government is actually pro-poverty. They're actually pro keeping some people at the bottom. They're actually pro keeping some people homeless. They're actually pro keeping some people hungry and starving. They're actually pro, even though they could cure all of this, they're actually for it, de facto, for this. They won't come right out and say it, but your representatives and your senators, they're actually pro this shit. Mitt Romney, who's a popular senator, popular Republican senator. Well, maybe not lately because he says a lot of things that people don't like. But he could be senator until he dies from Utah. That's how much he's loved in Utah. He could be senator until he dies. But he's like, no, I'm done. I am done. I'm out of here. I'm sick of this government crap. I am finished. But his father worked for the Nixon administration and wanted the U.S. to get rid of racism and discrimination in housing to the point that he came up with a policy to help end redlining in the United States. And it was so hated. He was a Republican. He was so hated by his Republican masters. And Nixon, it was so unpopular that Nixon was like, F that, and then forced him to resign. But another example of the bandwidth tax is where millions of Americans face significant student loan debt, which, our government is trying to, our current president is trying to get people out of. Millions of Americans face significant student loan debt, leading to a constant worry about repayments. The pressure of these payments alongside inflation often means people can't afford to focus on long-term financial planning or professional growth, which is so true, honey, so true. This financial burden can occupy their bandwidth, making it harder to invest in new opportunities, even if those could eventually improve income and quality of life. Yes, because you have to make payments now. You don't have time to be like, okay, I can take a year off from work to go back to school or to go into another sector, perhaps, where I'm getting retrained, even though I have to take a pay cut. This will help me in my career ladder. It will be a career ladder position. And no, you can't afford to make less money. And so you're kind of stuck where you are. And people will tell you, well, just take on a second job. Just take on a side hustle. Just take on, do some gig work. Do gig work. Can you believe when you went to school, when you went to college, did you imagine you would have to be working 3 jobs to pay back the money that you were loaned to be able to afford college? Never thought in a million years. And I work in public service. I'm a public service attorney, and my loans were forgiven through the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, thanks to President Biden. And I was making payments, but it just seemed like the balances were never going down. Like, I've been paying on my mortgage for 16 years and the balance is going down. But this is not what was happening with student loans. And I don't know how that's possible, how you could be making payments. And it turns out you're at some point in the beginning, you're only paying on the interest. And so the balances are not going down. But it's like, why is there so much effing interest? And my interest rate was like 2.5%, 3%, but it was still a lot of money. And there are people whose interest rates are 9, 10, 15%, and there's no way they'll ever be able to pay these loans back unless they work 3 jobs and they go move in with their parents and they put all of their money into paying their student loans back. And that is, some people can do it. There are some people who can do absolutely anything because they have the means, they have the resources. The United States is a place where you absolutely have to have the means and resources to accomplish big things. Now, gone are the days where we're finding the inventors among the impoverished. Gone are the days where we're finding the super talented, unplucked ingenue in the hood. Gone are the days, honey. It's just not happening anymore. The U.S. is now a place where you have to have the resources. You have to have people helping you if you want to get ahead. It's unfair. It's unfortunate. Now you really do have to know people. Not only do you have to know people, but you have to have a lot of education to do a job that isn't even a tenth of what you were educated in. And it's insane. It's insane the way things are going. But even worse is that people are unwilling to do anything about it. And I'm not talking about the government. I'm talking about people on the outside. Because we're all focused on these broader things like the border or some generic economic policy or the generic war, arms, sending money abroad, very generic statements like that. We're focused on things that I gotta tell you, in the short run, and the short run is really where people are in need right now. That shit does not matter to your short-term needs right now. It simply does not. It's just a tool It's a tool. It's a trick that's being played on you. You're being manipulated. I've said this in previous episodes, but you are being manipulated by the media. You are being manipulated by politicians into thinking that these are the things you should focus on. The fentanyl crisis, drugs coming in through Mexico. I'm talking about the fact that the price of a bag of chips is a 7-ounce bag of chips is $6. That has shit to do with fentanyl in Mexico. I mean, it really has nothing to do with it. It has to do with the fact that corporations know that people will buy these chips anyway, and so they will continue to charge these high prices. And I see this on in videos all over the internet. For some reason, people are looking for sympathy about the amount of money they spend on groceries. And I say the same things to all of them over and over. Why are you still paying for it? Why are you still paying for it? Why are you still paying for it? And the response is, well, this is what my family likes to eat. This is what my kids like to eat. And it's yogurt cups and fruit snacks and a 24-pack of soda and a 40-pack of bottled water and instant macaroni and cheese and instant noodle packs and 6 cans of Pringles. And it's all these prepared, prepackaged foods. And the fact that people are paying for bottled water when they could buy, I have a pure water filter on my kitchen faucet. And every 45 days, every 40 days or so, I put in a new filter. And my water bill is $60 something a month. And that's how much I pay for water. I don't pay for water and then go to the store and then buy more water and pay for that and bring that into my house. And maybe people will drink it and maybe they will leave half emptied bottles somewhere. And then I have to go to the store again in another week to buy more water. But then I'm still also paying for the water coming out of my faucet. It's ridiculous. You're paying twice for water, but you're also complaining that you don't have enough money to buy groceries for your family of 4. And then you look at your grocery list and you're not doing anything to cut down on the amount of prepared foods that you're buying, the amount of snacky things that you're buying. You're not doing anything to help yourself. You're not doing anything to help yourself. You're just complaining. And complaining is fine. Get it out, honey. Get it out. But at the end of the day, what are you going to do about it? Because these corporations are not going to lower their prices until they see that people are unwilling to pay these prices. Personally, myself, since I've been on my weight loss journey, I eat a lot less. But I also am not snacking at all. And I don't drink soda at all. I don't drink any kind of fizzy drinks, but I absolutely do not drink soda at all. I drink water and I have almond milk with my protein powder. That's the most expensive thing that I buy for myself. Even fruit is not terribly expensive if you get it on sale or if you go to a place like Aldi or something. But I adjust. When I see that something costs too much, honey, I will not buy it anymore. There are things that I absolutely refuse to pay for anymore because they're unreasonably expensive. Like the prices could be lowered on a lot of these things. So what? People are still going to pay these prices. People are still going to go to the Taylor Swift concert. Taylor Swift has been on tour for like 4 years. And she's been all over the United States, all over the world. People are going to see Taylor Swift 3, 4, 5 times. They're going to Jamaica and the Maldives and Thailand. And hey, go, please, by all means. But that's just it. These corporations, airlines, and hotel chains, they see that you are still willing to pay these prices. So they will charge you whatever the hell they want because they know you will pay it anyway. You'll pay it anyway. You'll get 2 jobs. You'll get 3 jobs. You'll sacrifice to make these payments. You'll sacrifice to go on a cruise. You'll sacrifice to do it. They know you will. They know that you will save for a year every penny you can find in between the couch cushions to pay for a trip for your kids to Disney. Disney it's so expensive. I went to Disney over 20 years ago. It was beautiful, great, yeah, a lot of fun. It's gotten substantially more expensive now. Substantially more expensive. The food, the accoutrement, the little accessories, parking even. But Disney knows that you will sacrifice and you will probably put that on a credit card. You will go into debt to take these trips. You will go into debt to take these trips. People don't mind being in debt if that means they can have a good time. So talking about food prices, food insecurity, food scarcity is another prong of the bandwidth tax and rising food prices globally. Food prices have gone up globally. People think that, rising costs is only happening in the United States. And I hate to break it to you, but the entire world is experiencing what people in the United States are experiencing. There's nothing unique. The entire world was affected by COVID in the pandemic. The entire world is affected when prices go up. But people feel like there's not enough food. And during COVID, there were supply chain issues that perhaps there wasn't enough food on the shelves. And in some areas, if you have a little bit of food, when there's a disruption in the supply chain, that little bit of food dries up and there's not enough food. Absolutely. But households that are focused on affording daily meals often experience a bandwidth tax because they are consumed by survival-focused decisions rather than pursuing skills, education, or business growth. And politicians know this. They know this. They are very well versed in the bandwidth tax, and they're counting on this bandwidth tax to allow you to vote for them because they will promise to pull you up out of these things, to pull your communities up out of these things so that you will be doing better when they are full of it. They are full of it. It is not to their advantage at all. Now, there are some politicians who absolutely, yes, they have a good heart and they want to see you do well. But most of them, no, it's not to their advantage. And why? Because they're beholden to their lobbyists, the corporations who are funding their campaigns, the corporations that are putting money in their pockets, the corporations whose stocks they are trading. They are beholden to more than just the American people. They work for us, but they don't answer to us. And we need to make them answer to us. We need to press these people. We need to press politicians and press corporations. But the only people we're pressing right now is the president. The only person, because, this person is the poster child for the government and the economy and all of the ills that we see. We look at the poster and we see Biden. Or for some reason now we see Vice President Harris, even though she's not the president, she's not in charge of any of these decisions, by the way. She does not make any decisions. She's not in charge of any of these decisions. For people who say these things, I just have to wonder, what is going through your head? Is it a mouse on a bicycle that's running the wheels in your brain? The vice president does not make these decisions. Hell, the president doesn't even make these decisions. There are checks and balances. There is consent of Congress. There is, separation of powers. There's all these things. There are all these parts that go into the decision making. And you thinking that the vice president or the president has anything to do with the cost of food is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, they could put tariffs on imported goods. We saw that with Trump. We saw how he put unreasonable tariffs on the cost of imports, which corporations just pass off to the consumer. But they also have nothing to do with the cost of gas. Actually, your state's governor has more to do with the cost of gas than the president, because you're being taxed at a state level and a county level and a city level for the amount of gas per gallon. They are taxing you. A governor could say, hey, we're going to suspend the gas tax for one day or one weekend for a holiday weekend or a holiday. Enjoy your holiday. Enjoy not having to pay taxes on gasoline. They could actually do that, and they don't. But you're not pressing them. You're not pressing them. You're not taking it to the streets for your governor to say, hey, lower the taxes on gasoline so that the price of gasoline will go down. You're not doing that. Instead, you're blaming Vice President Harris for some reason. And doesn't that sound incredibly stupid? Like, I hate to call people stupid, but that's stupid. That is stupid. You're blaming the wrong people. You're pressing the button on the wrong person. You're in the wrong person's face, honey. You really are. And so this allows the people who are really responsible for the cost of things, for the high cost, for the amount of poverty in the United States, for the class warfare, that allows the people who are responsible for these things to get away with it, to continue to do it, to use it to win your vote. You're being used, you're being manipulated, and you're okay with it. You're okay with it. No, you are. You are. Because you're not doing anything about it. So I have to assume that you are okay with it. Because when presented with new information that shows you who is really responsible, you're still reciting the same ignorant lines over and over. So I have to believe that you are okay with the way things are. When someone shows you how you can fix your problems and you go, well, you know what? No, I don't like that. I don't like the answer that you're giving me. I think I'm going to stick with what I know to be true. Then you must be okay with the way things are. You're okay with it. You're okay with being manipulated. You're okay with being lied to. You're okay with being used. You're okay with Congress in the last 2 years has gotten absolutely nothing done. Nothing. The government almost shut down twice. They've accomplished nothing. You're okay with it. You all are ready to vote those same people right back into office. I've seen it. You're ready. You're lined up at the polls to vote those same MFers right back into office. You're okay with it. You're okay with all of this. And maybe it's because your bandwidth is low. Maybe it's because you have been pressed for so long that you do not have the psychological and emotional bandwidth to fight the forces that are coming for your livelihood, that are coming for your paycheck, that are coming for your communities, that are pressing you to fight your neighbors because they're immigrants. These examples of bandwidth tax show that when people face persistent stress over basic needs, they lose some of their capacity to plan for the future. And that breaks down productivity and perpetuates cycles of poverty. The bandwidth tax essentially underscores the importance of reducing these day-to-day stresses to unlock people's full potential and foster long-term economic stability. And who is interested in doing that? I am. I think that's a great idea. I think it's a great idea to empower poor people. I think it's a great idea to empower people who feel like they are at the bottom, like they've hit rock bottom, and not just give them speeches and hyperbole, actually give them skills. Actually put skills in their hands. Actually help them build networks of support. Create jobs within their communities. Give them access to legal services and invest in the infrastructure in their communities like clean water and sanitation and electricity and internet access. Actually help people find good health care, right? Good health care, nutritious food, and mental health services so they can fully participate in work and education and increase their capacity to improve their economic situation. Many people who are impoverished lack access to traditional banking services. What if we offered, we as in the government, maybe a city or a county or a private organization offered microloans and savings accounts and financial literacy programs to these people to help them manage their money, save and invest? Hell, I could use help in that regard. Saving and investing. What about that? What about providing access to quality education and vocational training? Empower people, not just say you're going to do these things, but actually do them. And I know pie in the sky, Ayana, it's the pie in the sky. It's the man in the moon. It's the impossible dream the impossible dream, to give tools and skills and opportunities to lift people out of their dire circumstances, to lift people out of their mental anguish. Why would you want to do that? Who is interested in doing that, Ayana? You can fight if you wanted to. You can fight if you would open your minds and see the truth. You could fight this. You could get over it. You could get past it. You could be uplifted. You could finally pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You could finally do it. And I hope that you will. This has been Ayana Explains It All, brought to you by Facts, Figures, and Enlightenment. Take care.